I guess we moved on from the RGB trend and tempered glass trend to something more natural, like wood here. More and more cases got wood, so no exception here. One of the best small form factor cases got wood. This is the Lian Li X-Dan A3, but with wood, of course. Looking for affordable Windows or Office keys? Look no further, I got you covered. Head over to scdkey.com, pick your Windows edition, use my discount code LE25 to get a 25% on any Windows or Office products. Once you complete your order, after a few seconds you will receive your code. In Windows, go to Settings, there should be an Activate Windows prompt at the bottom. Click that, enter your code and wait for Windows to finish activation. To check the activation status, use the command prompt with the command slmgr.vbs/xpr and you should receive a notification that the machine is permanently activated. Once again, use code LE25 at scdkey.com. Jokes aside, this is actually a great case. With updated visuals, everything else is like with the regular black and white versions. This one just has that wooden touch applied to it. This case is actually quite unique. 26.3 liters in total volume, 443 millimeters deep, 306 millimeters tall and 140 millimeters wide. And you know what? It's a dirt cheap for such a case, only $69.99 US. Usually these types of cases cost way more. But don't be fooled by its size. It might be small, but actually you can fit high-end stuff here. Let me show you the case first. Obviously, you would immediately gaze upon its gorgeous wooden front, which is also perforated for air to get in, but more on that later. Below the front panel there is a silver line that separates the wooden part from the I/O panel, which has plenty of ports you need. Two USB 3.0 ports, power button, mic and headphone jacks, and USB Type-C 3.2 Gen 2 ports. So, as you can see, you are not losing anything on connectivity as it has everything that bigger cases have. The side of the case is perforated mesh for maximum airflow compatibility. The panel is held in place by pegs and it is easily removable. No extra filters on it since the mesh is dense enough to act as a dust filter. Anything more than this would block the airflow. Once removed, you can see that there is a fan rail here. This is removable and you can fit up to 3 120mm fans here or two 140mm on it and two 80 or 360mm AIO. It is removable with just two screws at the top and it just falls off to the outside. Inside this case you can put micro ATX and ITX motherboards, nothing else. PSU is mounted in the front here, and this case supports SFX, SFXL and regular PSUs and actually Lian Li's own Edge PSU as well, like I used here. Above the motherboard tray there are neat cable channels for the PSU power extension cord and for EPS cables as well. Neat organizing tricks since this case, at the back, has zero space for cables. PSU positions are plenty and you can use the included bracket, which can be seen and accessed from the front once the front mask is removed. It has a notch-like system on which you can position the PSU height. You do get two additional brackets with the case. One is used to offset the PSU positioning a bit and the other one is for the SFX power supplies. There are limitations in regard to the PSU and the AIO and fans that could be used. Actually, there are a lot of limitations with this case and we'll get there eventually. For now, we are moving to the rear side, the rear fan support, which is limited to 120mm in size and the holes on the back are quite big, so have no fear, ventilation is great here. You can also notice a PSU extension cable at the top left corner on the back side. This is normal for SFF cases. At the bottom of this case you can mount either two 140mm fans or three 120mm fans and 240 or 360 radiators with fans at the bottom, again with some limitations since there is also this bracket here. This is used to attach a magnetic GPU holder to prevent sagging. And at the same location, if this bracket is removed, you can mount either one 2.5-inch SSD or 3.5-inch hard drive. Again, this is with the limitation in mind since the GPU length and thickness plays a big role. The case accepts up to 415mm GPU in length now. This is a lot, but again depends on the GPU thickness as well. So let me explain this. There are different micro ATX boards on the market. Some will have the first PCI slot lower, like the one I use here. It moves the GPU one slot lower, so you have this slot here empty. But this is also limiting the use of bottom fans, at least the regular ones, as it again depends on the GPU thickness. So possibly thinner cards can fit with the PCI slot position, lower one, and bottom fans, the regular 25mm ones, or perhaps 15mm slim ones, or none, like in my case, since this GPU is real thick. Another limitation is again with the GPU and PSU positioning and or size. So if you use larger PSUs, you have to take into account that you need space below the PSU here in the front for the cables. So this limits the GPU length up to 368mm. So this RTX 4070 Ti Super is a pretty big card, and it fits with Lian Li's Edge PSU in the front and with cables packed under it. So you could reposition the PSU on the back wall of the motherboard, since there is a bracket there that can be removed and you can position the PSU on the motherboard wall. This again limits you, so I advise you to be very careful in which hardware you are picking in case you decide to use the A3 for your next build. Speaking of CPU heatsink clearance, this case accepts up to 165mm towers heatsinks to be installed here, so anything like the Noctua D15 Gen 1 or Gen 2 can fit here without any issues. And you know what? There are limitations here again. Actually, there are more of a recommended setups on how and where to position the fans, the AIO or air cooler, and which fan combination to use with which PSU for the optimal air cooling or AIO cooling, as you can see from the pictures on the screen. Top of the case is removable with two thumb screws at the back. Perforated mesh panel is there, of course. You can mount two 140mm fans or three 120mm fans up top here, or up to 360mm in radiator size. And as you can see from my build, 360 rad fits with larger PSU as well in the front. Tubes are bent nicely and not squished in there. At the bottom of the case there is a large magnetic mesh filter, since this is the only part of the case that doesn't use the perforated mesh panels. At the right side of the case you can see that there is literally zero space for cables. There is only this removable and repositionable SSD bracket, which holds up to two 2.5-inch drives, but this is also used as a PSU support bracket in case you want to reposition the PSU to the motherboard side. I know that this case has its limits, but it's far from a bad case. On the contrary, this is one of the better SFF cases, considering that you can put beefy hardware inside and still have it all cooled nicely with an AIO. It is advised to put at least one intake fan here on the side bracket for intake, preferably more of course. Please once again research on which motherboard has the PCI slot at the top PCI bracket position, as then you can mount bottom fans and have fresh air rise up, I mean as an intake for the GPU at the bottom. So no worries about the GPU exhaust, as it's exhausting air directly outside of the case through the mesh panel, but add some fans on the side bracket, as it will most definitely help the CPU and PSU if you installed Edge PSU, for example. If you're wondering if you can mount a GPU here vertically, yeah, you can, but this is done with an additional PCI riser bracket and cable, of course. If you ask me about the performance in this case, it is actually quite good, not far from any bigger cases if you install fans properly in this case. In my build I have no bottom fans, just an AIO on top, one 120mm fan here at the back, and I added one 120mm fan on the side for fresh air intake. Temps for the GPU while gaming are 56 degrees, that is on average 1 degree hotter than classic mid-tower cases. The CPU is literally cooled the same, idling at 45 degrees, 57 to 64 while gaming, depending on the load of course, and maxing out at 77 degrees. Since this case is for very niche audience and specific builds in mind, once again do a research very good on which stuff you can fit in here. You can check on the Lian Li's website, I will leave a link in the description, they have this explained very thoroughly, so check it out. The price of this case is literally epic. Regular versions are available in black or white color, with or without tempered glass, as it can be bought as an extra accessory. That will again impose another limitation on the case for the cooling, but this wooden model is mesh all around with, of course, gorgeous wood accents in the front. So if you're a fan of clean setups and minimal design, this is the right case for you, and it can finally dethrone the Cooler Master NR200 as it was one of the best SFF cases so far, but temperatures in the A3 are much better and also the compatibility for modern hardware. That's all for now, folks. Sub to the channel, it helps a lot. Like and share the video, and I'll see you with some new Lian Li goodies real soon.